The discrepancy that opens the investigation is 11 words long. It appears in a post-strike battle damage assessment for a Wave 2 target engagement, a hardened IRGC regional command facility 60 kilometers northwest of Ahvaz. And the 11 words are these: anti-aircraft artillery repositioned to northern perimeter, approximately 90 minutes prior to strike. 11 words in a damage assessment that describes an air defense configuration that should not have changed because the targeting cell's pre-strike imagery from 14 hours before the attack showed the battery in its standard southern orientation, and because no intelligence collection in the 14-hour window between that imagery and the strike time indicated any repositioning activity at the site. The anti-aircraft battery's movement to the northern perimeter was not random. The strike package approached from the north. A battery repositioned to the northern perimeter 90 minutes before a strike approaching from the north is a battery that received warning of the strike's approach vector. The crew operating it knew where to point before the aircraft arrived. One of the two attacking FA-18S sustained minor shrapnel damage from the battery's fire during the egress phase after weapons release, damage that will be documented in the maintenance record and that the pilot will describe in his post-mission debrief as the worst 40 seconds of his career, flying through a wall of proximity-fused rounds in the dark with his aircraft's radar warning receiver screaming at a frequency he had only ever heard in simulation. He exits Iranian airspace at low level with a 14-centimeter fragment hole in his left stabilator and a fuel consumption rate that forces him onto the tanker 20 minutes earlier than planned. He makes it back to the ship. The damage assessment note reaches the CAOC Intelligence Watch cell at 4:17 a.m. The watch officer reads it again, and by 4:22 a.m. has assembled the timeline that makes the repositioning inexplicable through any conventional intelligence explanation. The pre-strike imaging was current. The signal's intelligence coverage of the site showed no unusual communication activity in the targeting window. The route of flight for the strike package was not transmitted outside the CAOC's strike coordination cell until 47 minutes before the aircraft left the runway, a window too short for the IRGC's ground-based intelligence network to generate, verify, transmit, and act on an approach vector warning to a battery that is not in real-time digital communication with a central fire direction node. The battery's organic communication architecture is assessed as requiring a minimum of 2 hours for a warning cycle of this specificity to reach an individual unit from a strategic intelligence source. 47 minutes. 2-hour minimum cycle time. The warning did not come from outside the building. It came from inside it. At 4:31 a.m., the CAOC Director of Intelligence is awake and in a secure space with 2 other people. At 5:15 a.m., the base's physical security office is notified of a technical security sweep requirement for the primary strike coordination facility, Building 7 North, the reinforced concrete structure that houses the CAOC's strike planning and coordination functions, classified as an emergency inspection under the base commander's Force Protection Authority. The notification does not specify the reason. Scheduled sweeps happen regularly. This one happens at 5:15 a.m. before any of the day shift personnel arrive for their 6 a.m. reporting time. The Technical Security Sweep Team, 4 personnel with RF detection equipment, acoustic monitoring tools, and a millimeter wave imaging device capable of resolving objects embedded in standard construction materials up to 12 centimeters behind a wall surface, enters Building 7 North at 5:22 a.m. They begin in the primary strike coordination conference room, the room where the previous evening's Wave 2 strike package was coordinated, where the approach vectors were assigned, and where the 47-minute pre-launch window produced the specific targeting information that the IRGC anti-aircraft battery appears to have received. The sweep of the conference room takes 34 minutes. The RF detection equipment produces no alerts on any monitored frequency band. The room is electromagnetically clean in every band the equipment covers. The acoustic monitoring tools, which detect resonant frequencies characteristic of vibrating membrane microphones embedded in hard surfaces, produce no alerts on the walls, ceiling, or floor. The millimeter wave imaging device, run systematically across every wall surface, produces a structural image of the room's interior. The rebar grid, the conduit runs, the electrical junction boxes, and one object in the northeastern wall at a depth of 7 centimeters behind the surface plaster that does not match any expected structural element. It is approximately 4 centimeters wide and 9 centimeters long, with a density profile consistent with a populated circuit board and a power cell. The object is not transmitting on any frequency the RF detection equipment monitors. It is dormant. The sweep team marks the location, photographs the millimeter wave image, and reports the finding to the Director of Intelligence at 5:56 a.m. without opening the wall. Opening the wall is a decision that requires a different kind of authorization than running a sweep, and it requires careful consideration of what opening it communicates to anyone who might be monitoring whether the object has been discovered. The decision made at 6:11 a.m. in a conversation between 4 people in a room without recording devices is to not open the wall. Not yet. Not until the device has been characterized sufficiently to understand its transmission architecture and, most critically, its detection of discovery protocol. Some covert acoustic devices include tamper detection functions that transmit a compromise alert to the device's operator if the installation is physically disturbed. If the device in the wall of the CAOC's primary strike coordination room includes a tamper detection transmitter and the wall is opened, whoever placed it will know within seconds that it has been found. The investigation needs that person not to know. Not until the investigation is far enough along to act on the knowledge simultaneously with the discovery. The characterization of the device takes 19 hours, conducted through a combination of extended millimeter wave imaging at multiple angles, a low-power acoustic stimulation test conducted through the wall surface that reveals the device's resonant frequency signature, and a spectrum analysis sweep expanded beyond the standard monitoring bands to cover frequencies associated with ultra-low-power burst transmission systems that operate below the detection floor of the base's standard electronic security monitoring. At 1:14 a.m. the following morning, the extended spectrum sweep captures a 0.4-second transmission burst on a frequency 340 MHz, above the upper end of the standard monitoring band. The burst is consistent with a scheduled transmission cycle. The device has been transmitting at regular intervals, entirely invisible to the base's standard monitoring infrastructure, for an undetermined period before the sweep team expanded their coverage range to find it. The burst transmission frequency and modulation characteristics are forwarded to NSA's Technical Collection Analysis Cell at 1:47 a.m. The analysis cell's response arrives at 4:20 a.m. The transmission profile matches a class of covert acoustic collection device assessed to be associated with IRGC technical intelligence operations, previously documented in 2 collection cases from separate theaters, but never before detected in a U.S. military facility at this classification level. The device in the wall of Building 7 North is not commercially available. It is not a modified consumer product. It is a purpose-built intelligence collection platform, manufactured specifically for this application, capable of recording acoustic content in the conference room and transmitting compressed encrypted audio in burst intervals, timed to minimize detection probability. Its power cell is assessed as having a 30 to 45-day operational life from a fully charged state. Based on the burst transmission pattern, the device has been active for approximately 11 days. 11 days. The device was installed during the 11-day period preceding the sweep. Building 7 North underwent routine facility maintenance during that period. Specifically, a scheduled repair of a water intrusion issue in the northeastern wall of the primary conference room, identified during a facilities inspection on the 14th of the month, and repaired by a 2-person team from the base's civil engineering contractor on the 16th and 17th. The repair involved opening a section of the northeast wall, exposing the interior void space, addressing the moisture intrusion source, and replastering the surface. The repair was completed and signed off by the base facilities manager on the 17th. The device is embedded at a depth of 7 centimeters behind the plaster surface of the northeastern wall. The northeastern wall was opened and replastered on the 16th and 17th. The civil engineering contractor that performed the repair is a Qatari firm with a base services contract, covering routine maintenance and repair functions at Al Udeid. The contract has been in place for 4 years and has been renewed twice without adverse performance findings. The 2-person team assigned to the Building 7 North repair job are both Qatari nationals employed by the firm for 2 and 3 years, respectively. Their base access credentials are processed through the base's contractor vetting system, which verifies identity, criminal record status, and employment history against Qatari civil registry databases. Neither individual has a criminal record. Neither individual has appeared in any prior security assessment. Their access to Building 7 North on the 16th and 17th was logged and authorized under the Standard Maintenance Access Protocol, which allows contractor personnel to work in non-restricted areas of designated facilities during daylight hours with an escort from the base Facilities Management Office. The escort was present during the work. The escort's role, as defined in the base's contractor oversight protocol, is to ensure that contractor personnel do not access restricted areas and do not leave materials or tools unsecured at the end of each work period. The escort was not positioned to maintain continuous visual observation of both workers simultaneously during the 6.5-hour repair process. The work involved extended periods of close-in manual labor inside the wall void space, with the primary worker's body blocking the line of sight from the escort's standard standing position to the interior of the wall opening for periods of up to several minutes at a time. The device is 4 centimeters wide and 9 centimeters long. It can be placed with one hand in under 4 seconds. The investigation's focus narrows to the primary worker, the team member who performed the majority of the interior wall work, within 22 hours of the device's characterization. His employment history with the civil engineering firm traces cleanly through Qatari civil registry records. His residential address, financial profile, and social network, examined through the Qatari Internal Security Services cooperation under the bilateral security framework, are unremarkable within the standard screening parameters. What is not unremarkable, when the investigation goes deeper than standard screening, is a contact relationship documented in Qatari internal security reporting from 14 months ago. A record of 2 meetings between the worker and an individual who at the time of those meetings was under observation as a peripheral contact in an investigation of a suspected IRGC facilitation network operating in Qatar's construction and logistics sector. The investigation was closed without findings against the facilitation network's principals. The worker's peripheral contact record was never elevated to a security concern because his own profile showed nothing actionable. The record is actionable now. At 11:34 p.m. on the day of the device characterization, the worker is placed under surveillance by Qatari counterintelligence officers. His home, his vehicle, and his communication devices are observed without his knowledge. At 2:17 a.m. the following morning, 29 hours after the CAOC sweep team first identified the object in the wall, the surveillance team observes the worker make a brief exit from his residence and make contact with a second individual in a vehicle parked 80 meters from his building. The contact lasts 4 minutes and involves a physical handoff of a small item from the worker to the second individual. The second individual departs. The worker returns to his residence. The item transferred is not recovered in time. The surveillance positioning at the moment of the handoff does not allow for interdiction without revealing the observation. But it is photographed. The image quality is insufficient to determine the item's nature. The decision made at 2:45 a.m. is to act. The investigation has established sufficient evidence for the Qatari authorities to proceed under their own domestic legal framework, and the operational risk of continued delay, the possibility that the worker has been alerted through the second individual and will attempt to leave Qatar, outweighs the value of additional collection. The worker is taken into custody at his residence at 3:11 a.m. by Qatari counterintelligence officers with 2 NCIS personnel present as observers under the bilateral arrangement. He does not resist. His personal devices are secured. His primary phone contains no sensitive communications. The device's messaging applications show a deletion event 19 minutes before the arrest, consistent with a remote wipe instruction received from an external party. The deletion covers 34 days of message history. The deletion timestamp is 2:52 a.m., 7 minutes after the surveillance team's observation of the physical handoff, and 19 minutes before the arrest team arrived. The second individual in the vehicle has been identified from the surveillance photographs and partial license plate recovery by 4:30 a.m. He is a Qatari national with a commercial logistics business and a residential address in Doha's Al Rayyan district. He is detained by Qatari security service personnel at 5:47 a.m. at his business premises. His arrest produces, in the search of his office, a secondary mobile device in a desk drawer whose contents have not been wiped. The device contains 19 audio files, each between 4 and 11 minutes in duration, each recorded in the preceding 11 days, each containing the acoustic content of planning discussions conducted in the primary strike coordination conference room of Building 7 North at Al Udeid Air Base. The audio quality is sufficient for the intelligence value of the recordings to be assessed immediately. The assessment, conducted by a signals intelligence officer at 7:15 a.m., produces a finding that requires an immediate operational response. 6 of the 19 recordings contain discussions of strike packages whose execution windows are either currently open or will open within the next 72 hours. The specific approach vectors, time on target windows, and weapon type assignments discussed in those recordings are current operational data. The 6 affected strike packages are placed in immediate replanning at 7:30 a.m. The process is exactly what happened in the Al Udeid document leak case, but broader in scope. 22 separate target engagements, replanned with modified approach geometries and shifted time on target windows in a compressed planning cycle. The CAOC's strike planning cell works through the night. By 4 a.m. the following morning, all 22 engagements have been replanned. All 22 execute on modified profiles. The post-strike battle damage assessments for those 22 engagements show none of the pre-activation indicators: repositioned batteries, dispersed mobile assets, adjusted radar emission patterns that characterized the Wave 2 Ahvaz engagement, whose 11-word damage assessment note started the entire chain. The modified profiles reach their targets without advance warning. The device in the northeastern wall of Building 7 North is removed at 8 a.m. on the morning after the arrests, once the analytical and operational actions it necessitated have been completed, and the removal can no longer alert anyone who is not already in custody. The wall is opened under observation by the sweep team and an NSA technical exploitation representative. The device is extracted intact. Its internal memory, accessed in an NSA laboratory 14 hours later, contains 11 days of continuous audio recording from the conference room, compressed and encrypted. The decryption and transcription of the recordings takes 4 days. The full transcript covers 47 hours of operational planning discussions, including material from Wave 1's final coordination, all of Wave 2, and the early planning cycles for Waves 3 and 4. The transcript is classified at the highest available level and distributed to a list of 7 individuals. It will not be further referenced in any document at a lower classification level. It becomes, in the institutional memory of the investigation, simply the record of what was heard, and the foundation for a comprehensive review of every strike execution anomaly across the preceding 11 days. against the hypothesis that the acoustic collection was not limited in its operational impact to the single Wave 2 battery repositioning that first revealed its existence. The classified after-action documentation records the following: 11 days of acoustic collection from the CAOC's primary strike coordination conference room before detection. 47 hours of planning discussion captured and transmitted to an IRGC linked collection network. 1 post-strike damage assessment anomaly. 11 words about a battery repositioned 90 minutes before a strike that triggered the entire investigation chain. 19 audio files recovered from a secondary device held by the logistics contact. 6 strike packages requiring immediate replanning at 7:30 a.m. 2 individuals taken into custody in Qatar. 1 device extracted intact from a wall. It had been sealed inside for 11 days. 1 remote wipe event at 2:52 a.m., 7 minutes after physical surveillance, observed a handoff that the team was not positioned to intercept. The retrospective analysis of the 11-day collection window against the full strike record produces findings that the after-action team documents with the care reserved for conclusions implicating operational decisions already made and irreversible. Across those 11 days, the strike group executed 9 separate wave packages covering 94 individual target engagements. The post-strike battle damage assessments for all 94 are reviewed against the hypothesis that acoustic collection was being converted into operational warnings. The review identifies 7 additional cases beyond the Ahvaz battery, where post-strike records show pre-activation indicators inconsistent with random defensive posture variation. A mobile radar unit that moved to a non-standard position before a strike. An IRGC logistics node that dispersed a portion of its vehicle fleet into concealed positions in the hours preceding a munitions strike. 2 anti-aircraft systems at separate sites whose engagement radars were active, and tracking before approaching aircraft had crossed the range at which they would normally become detectable. 7 additional cases, each individually ambiguous. Collectively, against the backdrop of a live acoustic collection device in the primary planning room, the pattern is not ambiguous at all. The operational cost of the 11-day collection window is assessed not in terms of any catastrophic single engagement, but in terms of the cumulative degradation of surprise across 9 wave packages. The one irreplaceable advantage that precision strike operations require to achieve their effects before a defending force can adapt. In 3 of the 7 additional cases, pre-strike measures directly reduced the strike's effectiveness against its primary aim point. In 2 of those 3, re-strike tasking was required, consuming additional munitions and exposing additional air crews to a threat environment specifically prepared for the approach geometry the initial strike used. The total cost is distributed across 9 wave packages, 7 site assessments, and 3 re-strike cycles. The assessment team characterizes the cumulative figure as significant without anchoring it to a specific number, because some costs do not reduce cleanly to a single line. And one F/A-18 pilot, who flew through 40 seconds of anti-aircraft fire in the dark over Iran, took a fragment in his stabilator and made it back to the ship, who will never be told that the fire he flew through was waiting for him, because a man spent 4 seconds reaching into a wall 2 weeks earlier. The most consequential intelligence collection does not announce itself. It does not trigger alerts or generate anomalies or appear in any monitoring system's output. It sits in a wall and listens, and it transmits what it hears in 0.4-second bursts on a frequency that nobody was watching. And the only reason it is ever found is that a single battery moved to the wrong perimeter 90 minutes too early, and a pilot in the dark noticed that the guns knew which way he was coming. 11 words in a damage assessment. The entire architecture of an 11-day intelligence penetration compressed into the space between what should have been there and what was.